Today, we're going to share some secrets on how to make you a better photographer with your smartphone. Come join us. So let's get started in this photography. Let's talk about it. What is it? Well, my definition is manipulating light and color to create art. You know, so if I grab my smartphone and I take a picture with my smartphone, is that creating art? Well, you know, most people use their smartphones for social media pictures, things for Instagram and Facebook. But can I take high quality photos with my smartphone? You know, do I have to spend hundreds of dollars on a really nice camera and then another boatload of money to look at lenses that'll go on it and accomplish the things that I want to accomplish? You know, cameras today are very sophisticated compared to our older film brothers and sisters from the past. You know, there wasn't an automatic mode on the cameras. You had to set the ASN or the DIN, which were basically settings for film sensitivity. And then you had to set the aperture, and then you had to set the shutter speed, and everything was all based on light meters and how much light was coming through the camera. And do I want a high aperture with lots of background, or do I want a low aperture with no background? Do I want to stop action with a fast shutter speed, or do I want to get in as much light as I can and use a slower shutter speed up into seconds, for instance, taking pictures of the moon or stars at night? And so there was a lot of things that happened back in the old days that we don't have to do anymore, because now we have this thing called automatic settings, even on our big fancy DSLRs. But does automatic settings really work for us? So, since I have a sophisticated camera on my phone, can I take top-notch, high-quality photos with my phone? You know, there's so many different smartphones out there with cameras, and for me to go through each one would take hours and hours. So we're going to go to a different place here. We're not going to talk about the cameras or the smartphones, but we're going to talk about the person that's holding it, the photographer. So what makes a great photographer? And I can tell you that there's basically 3 words that describe great photographers: practice, practice, practice. You know, most people take their smartphone or their cameras, they take one shot and expect it to be $1 million winner. And I can tell you that what happens in that is there's other moments, there's other things that compose that picture that either make it a great picture or not so great picture. So, you know, what we're doing is we're going to take a little bit of a test here, and we're going to put a little pressure on you and your smartphone. And what we want you to do is we want you to go out and take a picture of a rose or a leaf or something that's static, not an animal, not a bird, but it's something that's not moving. And from that, I want you to basically just point it and shoot whatever you're going to look at. Now, the first picture may be awesome, but let's go ahead and take a couple of different views on what's in there. You know, the thing is that if you're going to create art, it doesn't really matter what you think, it's what other people think. You know, what are they looking for in your image? You know, there's so many artists that paint or that shoot photos that shoot for their own liking, and you can see some on our back wall right behind me. But the thing is that if you're going to put this on Etsy, or you want to sell this to a magazine, or even, you know, the desktop for Microsoft uses photos that people send in. If you want to be part of that, or any contest or whatever, then you have to quit thinking about what looks good to you and start thinking about what looks good to them. And so the thing is that we're going to try to take a look at different things that we're going to call them hints or suggestions or steps that we think you can take to become a better photographer. So one of the things that's really important with taking photos, and it's one of the things that Grandma Snoops and I work on a lot, is it's one thing to look at the subject. Right now you're looking at me in this video. What's to my right? What's to my left? Can you see the cameras that are here in front of me? You know, here's one of the film cameras that we still have, and we have 2 or 3 of those still around here. Okay? But is my wall back here? If I take a picture of what you see here, Grandpa Snoops sitting in a chair, would the background distract from my photo? Would the hat distract? You know, waving, you know? And I can't understand why when this thing or this thing. Okay, so if we're putting this on Instagram, awesome, let's do it. Who cares? Or if we're going to put it on Facebook, nobody cares. And half the people don't look at your photo on those social media sites anyway. They're not going to look around it. They're going to see, oh, look at so-and-so's looking so great. Okay, and that's it. And that's a lot of the reason we put stuff on social media is for self-gratification. But now, if you want to take that photo and you want to sell it to the New York Times or to a magazine or enter it in a contest, do you think anybody's going to want that? So what we have to do is we have to compose the picture. Not only look at your subject, but look at what's around your subject. Okay, do we want to blur the background? Is there anything in the back that's distracting from your subject? Let's say, for instance, we're going to take a picture of my cat sitting over here. Okay, is there anything that's distracting from my main subject? What am I trying to convey with this photo? And if there's a distraction, what can we do to fix that? Can we move? Can we change some of the settings in our phone? Because now we have the ability to do that, to maybe blur the background a little bit, or throw a filter on there to get rid of some of the distracting points. Or maybe that's just not a good photo at all, and I've got to go over there and kick my cat and get him to move to get into a better position so that we can have a better photo. So there's a lot of different things that need to happen. Now I'm going to tell you a story, and because we're full of them over here with all of the, I've been working in photography for over 40 years. And so one of the things that my Grandma Snoops and I wanted to do is enter a contest. And we were flipping through all of the photos, and we have thousands. And we were looking for the best ones to enter in this nature contest. And as we're flipping through, there was a picture of a red rose that I took up at the test gardens, and it had raindrops or water droplets in it. And I went past it because I thought it was a little underexposed. In other words, it was too dark. And Grandma Snoop says, hey, what about that one? That one's awesome. And I go, no, it's underexposed. She goes, no, that really looks good. You got to send that one in. We sent 15 pictures in to this organization, and the only one they picked was that rose. So what I thought of it, what they thought of it, two different things. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that when you compose the picture, you don't think of it as what is it going to look like to me, but what is it going to look like to other people that are looking at it. So another thing you can do in composing your picture is, do I want to be over here with my main subject? If there's something interesting over here that enhances me, and me being the subject, then maybe I want to be over here. Or maybe I want to be over here. Or maybe I want to be down in the corner. The thing is that you are in charge of composing your picture. Okay? It's not necessarily if it looks good to you and you think it's going to look great to everybody else, then go ahead and shoot it. Move your subject around a little bit. Another thing is, it's a digital camera. Okay? It stores pictures on a file or in a folder. And you can actually take as many pictures as you want until you fill up your memory. and then go ahead and look through those. I can tell you that what Grandma Snoops and I do now, instead of weddings and portraits and all of that other stuff that we used to do, now what we're doing is nature photography because we really enjoy it. We do landscapes, nature, and we'll go to different places and take pictures of animals and birds and all that kind of stuff. The thing about that is I don't have a static subject. In other words, this bird may sit here and then all of a sudden fly over here. And he may fly away completely. The other day I was sitting on a lake in my kayak, and here's a bald eagle and another bald eagle sitting on the same branch. And by the time I kind of paddled myself over there real quiet, they both took off. I didn't even get a shot of them. And what would have been really cool is to get a shot of them as they were flying out of the tree and right over the top of me, but I wasn't ready for that. So we don't have static subjects. We have things that are generally moving. Or there's a bird sitting on a cattail and the wind's blowing the cattail. So our secret to success is taking a whole bunch of pictures of that particular subject while we have the opportunity. We had an owl that we took a picture of. He sat in a branch, flew down in front of Grandma Snoops, started chomping on a mouse that he'd caught, and then flew back up to the branch. We had a great shot of him up in the branch, but we're looking up at him, so he's looking down at us. And the picture didn't really look great. But because we were able to catch him in flight and catch him coming down and landing on the ground, we actually got him turning with his head turned 180 degrees, looking behind him where where Grandma Snoops was standing. He was actually facing away from her. And that's an unbelievable, awesome shot. And Grandma Snoops was able to capture that. So once again, with nature, landscapes, they don't change a whole lot. But with nature, if you're taking pictures of birds and stuff, you take a lot of pictures. And the other thing too is your screen on your smartphone. Okay, here is a screen that's basically 4x6, 3x5, something like that. There isn't a whole lot of photos that look awesome on this. And there isn't a whole lot of people that order 3x5s. Okay, so it's really important to take your photo, throw it on your computer, look at it on a bigger monitor and see what it looks like. And if it meets your expectations, then just grab somebody from the family. Hey, what do you think of this one? And get an opinion. And hopefully it's not a family member that patronizes you and says, oh, that's awesome, when it really isn't. But just take those things out and take a peek at them on the internet, or excuse me, on your computer. So get a bigger screen. You can see some of the flaws. You can see where things that you can improve. And that goes back to the practice part. If you go out and you shoot a camera full of photos and you come back and none of them look great, that's okay. Because you learn from those kind of things. Another thing to consider is that most smartphones now have the ability to change settings. I mean, even in my iPhone 10, which is 2 years old now, we can actually go in and we can change the f-stop. F-stop is the size of the opening in the camera itself that allows light in. The bigger the opening, the more light it lets in. The smaller the opening, the less light it lets in. But it also has to do with depth of field. I'm not going to get too technical into the camera world here, but by changing your f-stop and the rest of the camera being automatic, you can actually get some great shots, especially in portrait mode, with the background a little bit blurred out, foreground a little bit blurred out, but your subject really, really sharp. Another thing too is that you have filters, so you can add filters to change how the picture looks, or you have light settings where you can make things lighter, darker, and even go to black and white, which is pretty awesome. But all that being said, you know, there's times that just remember that there's going to be shots that we personally think are worth $1 million. But they aren't worth a pot to pee in with the guy that's got the checkbook. So let's kind of review the steps that we talked about and put them a little bit more in order here. The first thing that's really, really important is to practice, practice, practice. Even if you're using a smartphone, when you jump up into some DSLRs with fancy lenses and stuff, it'll make you a better photographer when you get to that step if you know how to compose. Another thing is to just make sure you put yourself in other people's shoes when you're shooting these. and composing these. You know, how does it look to me? Okay, that's great. But how does it look to the guy with the checkbook, or Microsoft that may want to put your photo on, you know, on their desktop screen, or Etsy? You got grandma looking through Etsy, they're trying to find the perfect picture that she wants to hang on the wall. It could be yours. So make sure that you put yourself in other people's shoes and see what they may see in your photo. And then third, compose your shots. Make sure that you compose your shots. Look at your shot. Make sure there isn't anything over here that's going to distract. Is there anything enhancing? Is there anything taking away from your subject? Do I need to move to get a better angle? And so these are all things that are really, really important in photography, is to compose your picture. You know that artists just don't start drawing. They've got a vision of what they're doing and what they're going to create. And a lot of times, sometimes they'll sketch it out and then they'll go ahead and paint it. Well, that's composing. And we have to do the same thing with our smartphones. So another thing to remember is you're never one and done. Never one and done. You know, you take a picture, okay, I'm good, let's go. Grandma Snoops is horrible with that. I said, hey, look at that. She'll go over and take one picture of it, and an eye will be closed, or, you know, the dog will turn, or it'll be out of focus. Those are all things that happen. But if we take multiple shots, there's got to be one in there that's going to be worthwhile. And just imagine, as I mentioned, we got thousands of photos. How many shots did we take to get that thousands of photos that we felt were worthy to keep? And one of the things too that I want to impress on everybody is we both look at those. I'll look at the ones that Grandma Snoops takes. She looks at the ones that she takes. I look at the ones that I take. She looks at the ones I take, and we decide together which ones we want to put in our files. And I'll tell you, there's a number of them that I say, hey, what's wrong with that one? How come you want to throw it out? You know, and that's just because she's really critical and she understands what other people are looking for in those photos. And so it's really important, number 5, to know what your phone can do. What can my phone do? Can I take pictures with an auto mode? Can I change settings? Can I add filters? You know, the quality of the cameras in these phones are getting better and better and better all the time. In fact, we do a lot of our videos using our smartphones. Just because the quality is good, they're easy to transfer, and usually with the microphones and speakers and stuff, it just gets really crazy, and I can do so much with my smartphone. But you know, right now we're actually recording with a Canon 77D DSLR camera that does not only photography, but it does video and does a great job with video. And so we have an external boom mic that's over the top of that. But we could do the same thing with this. And this is so much handier, especially with all the handles and stuff they've got nowadays. But get to know your equipment. You know, what adjustments does it make? What can we do with it? And get to know it and start playing with it. Take lots and lots of pictures, get lots and lots of practice. Can't emphasize that enough. And if you like what we're doing, subscribe to our channel, click the bell so that you get notified when we have new videos. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about photography and where we go with this. So thanks again for watching Senior Snoops. We hope you've enjoyed our video. If you like our video, give us a like or a comment, or subscribe to our channel. We'd love to have you on our team. Once again, thanks for watching Senior Snoops.